The people are represented by two separate and equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorney who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Ding ding.
Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the Macross Delta Recap Show. Episode 24. This is EXO, along with the magical girl that would take a bullet for anyone, any day, except on Taco Tuesdays. Celia Rose. How's it going, Celia?
Hello.
And our mecha expert, whose VF22 Sturmvogel doesn't have a leg to stand on. Chad.
Oh, I see what you did there, and I like it.
All right, so episode 24, Fatal Judgment. All right, so the episode starts off when we see Mirage, Freya, and Hayate inside the cell that the Windermerians are holding him at. Then we get to the trials. Mirage mentioned the Ormond Treaty, so they weren't that worried about anything happening to them. But then as the trial goes along, those three Windermerian judges tells them that it doesn't apply to them because they're not actual soldiers. Then there was this exchange between Freya and Heinz. He asks why Freya sings. And at the end of the trial, the judges find them guilty.
See, this is why you have lawyers present. You never do anything without your lawyer present, because
Yes.
this is all technicality crap that is actually not true. When the Windermerians say that the Chaos guys are not actual soldiers because they're not part of nuns, while technically that's true outside of war, if Chaos has a contract similar to, say, for example, SMS from Macross Frontier, they technically become an extension and part of the new unified government's forces during a time of war. And they're actually bound to the same sorts of laws and contracts and everything else that ordinary soldiers are, in that they cannot leave the employ of the SMS once an open conflict has been declared. And they're actually engaged in war. They become basically soldiers, conscripted almost, if you will. And so if Chaos has a similar agreement, they would technically be covered by this Ormond Convention. But of course, none of our heroes know that because none of our heroes are lawyers, and they should have had one. If they only had Phoenix Wright, this wouldn't have gone down this way. Ace Attorney, man. Ace Attorney would have saved the day. Could have saved our heroes.
But they actually had a scene when they conscript them. Remember, they're given a choice whether they would leave or stay because it was going to become a war.
Yes, before it was
the
officially
Windermerians.
declared. Yes, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
The trial was better than I thought it was going to be. I was so afraid it was going to be 25 minutes of trial. That when it was over after like the 10, 12-minute mark, somewhere around there, I was like, okay, that's better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was very convenient that they were simplifying the trial by removing questioning from the prosecution and the defense, that they're basically just going, yep, we think you're guilty, and that's about it. So that's how we're going to decide. I did think the way that Freya and Heinz were talking about the color of their songs, though, was a nice way to bring that back around, because I don't feel like it's been mentioned, but not enough to be like a consistent like theme with singing voices in this series, where Heinz is talking about how Freya's voice is like the sun, like he says tayoiro, so like the color of the sun, it feels warm, and Mikumo's is the color of the stars, which was, kind of, I thought, a cute way to be like, look, she's the star singer. Her voice is the color of the stars. Are you guys putting the pieces together yet? Because she's the star singer. So I like that. But when Freya says that his voice is colorless and empty, I thought that was a really cool way to provide that contrast between those characters without having to actually have them sing. Like if someone's singing, they're like, oh, that voice reminds me of the sun. That might have been a little bit too much. But I like that because it just by describing those things, it created that nice contrast between the two. And I thought it was pretty neat.
I didn't like the trial at all. I think they could have done without it. The worst thing that you could do to your characters in a story, and this wasn't that bad, they didn't stretch it, but they had just came from part of the Walkure being in detention and Mikumo being in that tank. So we've already had them in some sort of detention already, and then to go back into a couple more episodes where they're held is not for me. But like you said, it didn't last as long as expected. I was afraid of the same thing.
And of course, Hayate assaulting the guards while he's still handcuffed.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's quite effective, Hayate.
Well, you knew that was going to happen. I mean, in any highly dramatic sequence like this in an anime, someone's always going to get punched.
I like that about Hayate though. I liked Freya
Yeah.
mostly.
Her earnestness in this scene was just incredible, actually.
Yeah, and I liked Hayate because the last time Borg picked her up, he didn't do anything. Not that he could, but he didn't really like try that hard. So that kind of bugged me. So this time I felt like he knew what Borg did last time, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. So that really, really made it up for me as far as Hayate goes. So yeah, I think Hayate in this episode was really likable, and it's like having the old Hayate back that we had before he got lost in the story.
Yeah, I agree as well. Yeah, his characterization was very strong in this episode. Very enjoyable. Very brave too, actually, which is good.
Yeah.
We get to see him like really stick to his guns in the face
Mhm.
of what's happening, and also just really stick up for everybody, like his fellow team as well, which is really good. It's a nice side of his character to see, like you said, that we haven't seen in a while, and it's one of the things that made his character so likable.
Yeah, in the
And
first
like
half.
speaking of likable, like Freya is just excellent here. Like
Yeah.
her earnestness just comes across as so incredibly genuine and just compelling because it's written in a way that you can't really argue with it, right? Because she's just telling it from the heart. And you could see that in the way she speaks and the way she's talking, what she's talking about, and how she says it. And even if it's inappropriate, if she's giving an inadvertent critique of Heinz's own music and singing ability and whatnot, right? It's coming from like a place of complete honesty and openness, which is great because it's like everything that Freya says in this moment is like right and everybody else is wrong, which is awesome, I think, especially in this circumstance where she's basically being put to death at this point.
I was just happy it wasn't long.
Yeah, yeah, the Law and Order Winnemarian version. Dung dung.
The people are represented by two separate and equally important groups.
Holy shit!
The police who investigate crime and the district attorney who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Ding ding.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, so here we go. Here we go with Arid.
It's your boy.
So Arid and the girls are outside the castle, and Arid is scoping the situation with his binoculars. Then Belger shows up, and he mentions that the navigation satellites have Epsilon Foundation parts in it, so that's how he could tell that they were there. And then Kaname is like, "What did she say?"
Yeah,
I
they
think
need to check all their gear.
The gear, yeah.
Oh my god, these people. So my boy Arid gets guided to the inside of the castle and not practically, literally gets handed the VF-22 fully armed, and they took out the legs so that they could fit the three girls in the compartment. Yeah, a lot of people contacted me and they were just like, "Oh, aren't you so glad that Arid finally did something?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? The guy got handed the key to a loaded fighter. Before that, he was just sitting there thinking, what do we do now? What the hell do we do now? And I'm just thinking, what made Belger go out there? Is he watching Arid on a screen thinking, oh, they're here, good. And then like an hour later, he's looking at him and thinking, are they going to do anything? They're just like watching. And then like, 2 hours after that, it's like, all right, these guys are going to make me get up on a Friday and
Friday.
take him by the hand and lead him to the next step. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what you have to do because it's Arid, So to everybody that messaged me, no, I wasn't that impressed with Arid.
I'm actually not even sure why they followed him. After Belger came and gave his 25-minute PowerPoint presentation on the Elysian about music and the weaponization of music, and they're like, get out of here. And he's like, okay, bye. I'm not sure why they followed him.
Yeah, they were so distrustful of him, right? In that scene, it's like, oh, this guy.
Especially because he says, oh, yeah, he doesn't even say we're tracking you. He's like, yes, your navigational system uses our parts. And then I'm like, he just basically told you right there that he can keep an eye on what you're doing because he's tracking the parts that are being used. Why are you following him into the castle? Like that could have been a booby trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that part. I mean, it leads to some cool action sequences later, but I'm just like, why did you follow him? You
It's
know?
also way too convenient, I think, as well as one of the problems with it. I find it's like, Belger showing up at this moment, and like Alex said, like, why this moment? Why not like an hour before or an hour after? It's just like, why, now? And how does he know how to get into the Windermerean security, and how does he know the internal layout so well that he knows all these passages and stuff inside the Windermerean's main castle? Like, I don't.
He probably built it. He built the security system.
He knows the code. Enter the code on the keypad. And like, all right, system's down. Let's go, guys. Yeah, and actually, this sequence in particular made me question the theories that people have right now about Belger being the like big bad guy. That it's not actually Royd. This just seems, like Chad said, way too convenient. And I don't know how it would help add to the potential that he could be the ultimate villain of this show. I'm not seeing it. We've got 2 episodes left.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there's some manipulation that we're not seeing yet, which they could play up in the next 2 episodes, I suppose. But yeah, I'm kind of less convinced of him being like a big bad now. He almost seems like he's got like a vested interest now in not letting the Windermerian plan go forward. It's like he was okay with it just as long as the Windermerians weren't complete victors. It seemed like Belger was fine with them doing whatever they wanted to do, and his Epsilon Foundation was just, was all well and good for them to go along with it. But once it actually started to become a reality or something, it's almost like Belger is, well, I guess that's it. Time to swing the pendulum back. I'm like, what? Really? Yeah, I'm not really following that, but I guess we'll see. We'll find out what happens. Maybe I've got a wrong reading on it. Maybe this episode was just like a one-off or something like that. But
what if he's like chaotic neutral?
That's actually what I'm thinking now too. Like, I'm not thinking so much that he's going to be on any one side or the other. He actually seems very adamant in like the neutrality of the Epsilon Foundation and whatnot. Because we've already seen how he's had several opportunities to share like whatever information he's had with both Chaos and with Windermere, and he's done neither. Right? He hasn't either of them out.
That's my theory now. I mean, like after this episode, I was like, oh no, maybe he's not going to be the big bad, the second big bad guy.
He certainly seems like more than willing though to take the opportunity for any like gains. He was with Roy just as long as he got like all this protoculture knowledge and all this protoculture research completed. And then on the flip side, with Chaos and the new UN Spacey and stuff like that, it's like, oh, so you guys need some, mining done, do you? Well, it just so happens the Epsilon Foundation can help you out there. And, so it's like, yeah, it's like he's all about, taking advantage of all these opportunities to make profit and to get in good with both.
Exactly.
So,
that's what it is. He's prolonging the war. Every time Windermere gains a foothold, then he goes and helps the chaos side of it, and then vice versa. Yeah, that's what I'm beginning to think. That his interest is gaining more knowledge and prolonging the war. I mean, he's basically like Sanjuro, right? In that Kurosawa movie, he's just kind of like playing both sides.
Good one. Very good
he even
one.
demanded payment, though. Like, do you remember that? After he led them to the VF-22?
Well,
he's all like, I expect to be compensated later. Like, can you imagine Lady M just getting an invoice from Epsilon Foundation later? That's like this ridiculously large fee. And like the line item probably says something stupid. Like, led to VF-22. Navigation through forest.
Former Nuns VF-22, 7-year-old piece of military hardware.
ADM stands for money for him.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to see him pop up on a different Macross series later
Lord
on,
of War, played by Nicolas Cage.
Well, they did change the voice actor. Did you see that?
Yeah, I heard that the current voice actor's sick right now.
Oh, no.
Sick of this slow story.
No, I'm
terrible.
I'm liking these last few episodes. Actually, we should get on with the rest of the episode. This episode, to be honest, is really good. Like,
yeah, I liked it a lot
very
too.
much enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to get to some of the stuff that I really like. Well, we did talk about some of the earlier stuff that I really liked. The character work.
No, this is getting it out of the way. We're going
Yeah,
towards
we're going
fun
towards
stuff.
the better stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because we mentioned Aaron.
It's our arid salt
Yeah.
segment.
The last time that we did this took us 20 minutes to get over the whole arid section.
It's terrible.
So yeah, in the next scene, Roy leads Mikumo into the sanctum. He shows Mikumo her true form, or so he says. He mentioned something about 7 years ago. There was an item that was stolen from the sanctum, and Roy believes that it created her.
Yeah, that was actually a good detail to know. I don't know if I wanted it sooner or not, but that made more sense. Where they're suddenly introducing, she's the Star Singer. And then Royd says, well, there was this item that was stolen from the Shrine of Time. And he's pretty sure Lady M used it to revive the Star Singer. And we got a little bit more information about the Star Singer also, that the Star Singer was a protoculture priestess who was left for the Windermerians, probably just to share her power and to utilize it, and then eventually passing her powers on to what would become the Wind Singers of Windermerian culture. So I thought that was kind of neat how that passed on there. Like, that was pretty cool. But it is helping everything come together, at least for this plot thread for the Star Singer.
It was interesting. I think we talked a little bit about this in the previous episode as well, about just the fact that obviously Mikumo is going to be this Star Singer and the protoculture connection. I don't think that this particular episode reveals anything more that we didn't already suspect, but it was good. It was solid. It let us sort of know exactly, I guess, what was going to go forward with Mikumo's storyline. Like what we could expect. So I like that aspect of it. And it was a chance for Roy to be even more creepy than he usually is. So that was always good. I don't know, was that supposed to be some sort of knife he was carrying in the brief sequence that we saw just at the beginning of this? Because it seemed like he was carrying something shiny and sharp behind her, but I actually tried looking at the sequence again, and I can't quite make out the design of the knife. It's bizarre. It's almost like it's not necessarily a traditionally perpendicular held blade, but almost something like a parallel held blade, like a punch dagger or something like that, the way he's holding it and using it. I don't know, maybe I'm just not seeing it right because it's sort of a dark sequence and I can't really make it out, and we don't get a good look at it anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting looking weapon. Yeah, so I like the sequence overall. Like I said, I don't think the surprises aren't too big, I don't think. But they're good. They definitely put things on the right track. I'm interested to see more of where it's going. And luckily we do get to see it in the rest of this episode.
You think they were like a switchblade, but like they were also glasses?
Switchblade glasses.
It could very well be.
So the line that the summer used is, she was a priestess, the protoculture left by our side.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means that she got left behind, or if they said here, spread the protoculture here, type of thing.
Remember too that we're getting this filtered through the Windermerian sort of mindset as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
The protoculture existed 500,000 years ago, and we can't really assume that the Windermerians were created that far back. It seems kind of impossible for them to get passed down. Yeah, we're losing something on the verbiage. Yeah. But he also mentioned something about he watched her over, I don't know how long it was, overnight. And he came to the conclusion that she is an artificial intelligence. You guys remember that?
Yes,
yeah.
He specifically says that about her. Yeah, that she's an artificial being or something like that, he says.
That was my question, whether I should be thinking that. Because it seems weird that he kind of explained that she was created from that object. But then later on, he says something like that. It's kind of like, well, we already got what you meant.
Well, this is a part where I wish my vocab was better so that I could understand it a little bit more. Because there might be a nuance that the subber is choosing to go with instead. But what I see as a problem is it doesn't seem like they can decide what Mikumo's creation story is. Because in the episode where she busts the girls out of prison, she says, whether I'm a clone or not, I'll continue to sing. So that was implied there that she's a clone. But then you get here and, Royd says she's an artificial being, which that would make sense for being a clone. But then he says that the object that was stolen is used to revive her. And I don't know what the actual word is that's used in the original dialogue. So the subber may have chosen to go with revive as that translation. So I'm like, well, is it the Star Singer brought back from the dead and fused with some things to help keep her stable? Or is it an actual clone? I'm not really sure.
I think it's meant to be an actual clone, to be honest. Or at least, let me see here. Maybe not a clone, but a direct genetic descendant. I think that's the what's going on there with that.
Maybe, yeah. They should just say it. Just come right out and say it instead of being so mysterious about it.
I know you have 2 episodes. No need for mystery anymore. Maybe she's a Mikumo Otowash. She go bing bada boom.
Oh my god.
God.
There's an obscure reference.
So we go to the execution of the 3. um, Hayate, Mirage, and Freya are outside, and they're going to be forced to walk the plank. Arr.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
Right? And before that, though, we see a line of dialogue between Mirage and Herman where he critiques her flying. And then we also see one from Keith critiquing Hayate and his flying and how he's unwilling to kill. Hayate volunteers to go first, heroically. That was kind of like a familiar thing where he's kind of like walking and trying to keep his balance. It calls back to, I think, episode
2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So he's looking up when he's about to fall back, and he sees the VF-22 pop out of the tower and distracts the Windermerians. He tells Freya and Mirage to run towards him, and that's when those wingsuits Windermerians try to shoot them and totally misses them. I guess Windermerian target practice is not a thing.
They're stormtroopers.
Well, I mean it's plot armor, right? So maybe they're a bit thrown off by Arad's incredible flying or something like that. And they did cause a lot of the castle to fall on the ground, so they could have been unstable and very hard to get a steady footing to aim or something like that. Yeah, maybe. I'm throwing stuff out here to help explain why
Arad
plot
can
armor
shoot towers.
Eric can shoot towers perfectly and cause all this strategic, like surgical damage, but these Windermerians can't shoot the broadside of a barn.
They all need the green lasers.
Yeah, I don't have
Green
any
laser.
explanations for you other than plot armor. So yeah, they have to.
And it looked
get over that
cool.
glitch. And it looked cool, yes. And it was also an opportunity for our characters to be heroic. So it's all good.
Yeah. Maybe the debris and the smoke from all that tower stuff, just covered up Freya, Mirage, and Hayate. Yeah, lucky it didn't fall on them.
I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. I mean, I know it's kind of I don't know, it's a bit showy and melodramatic and whatnot, but I really liked it. I thought it was good. I just liked that it was pretty short, thankfully, which was one of the other things I liked about it. The walking the plank thing, I didn't mind so much because it, like I said, it led to that great callback for Hayate back to the second episode of the series, which I really, really loved, and also gave another opportunity to show like how invested the 3 of our heroes are in each other now. They're just like they're totally committed to this group, and they've gone through a lot of trouble to get to this point. Where the 3 of them like trust each other implicitly and are just there. It isn't even a question at this point in the series whether or not one of them is going to sacrifice themselves for the others. They all will, and they'll do it at like the drop of a hat. And they're all like so concerned with each other's survival and just willing to do like whatever it takes to help them out. And I love that. I like this is the realization of the team that we were trying to see being put together at the beginning of the series, right? With all of their personal agendas and all their feelings and everything else that was going on. But this is the promise of that relationship, and I like it. I like seeing this a lot.
I agree. I really like this sequence. I thought it was really cool. And actually going back and watching it a second time where, Hayate is telling Mirage to protect Freya with her life. And then the plan just so happens that they jump off the edge and the VF-31s are there to catch them. It makes me feel like that Mirage and Hayate may have already thought that would be an option for their plan, but Freya didn't know because Freya was so afraid of Hayate going first and seemed genuinely terrified. And then when it actually happened, it made it that much cooler. Was that it seemed like there was no hope for these 3 at all and that they were just going to jump off the edge and ride the wind. And then they literally end up riding the wind upward on top of their VF-31s. Like that was just really, really cool. I loved it so much. It was good. It kicked off the action for the last half of the episode really well, I think.
Yeah, I really like that line when he tells Mirage to take care of Freya. Like, I love the sentiment, but at the same time, I was kind of laughing because it seemed like, for how long? Like, we're next.
That's true.
So, Walkir minus Mikumo opened up a fold gate for Chaos to Windermere. We finally get to hear. Is it the proper version of Absolute 5 without Mikumo? Not yet, right?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to most of the new songs because they just haven't been catching with me as much as they have with the ones that were on the last album.
I think Absolute 5 is the only thing that has. I don't know if it's because they haven't really sang it fully, but I think that's the one that I haven't been into. So we see a sniper that was about to shoot Freya, and then Machina takes the bullet. And then there was a really sad scene with Reina when she was trying to sing after that. I was
Oh,
really.
so sad.
In the Sanctum, Roy uses the words Rudanjo Ram Mayan to trigger Mikumo's submissiveness. And then she starts to sing, and then a new part of the Sigurd balance appears. Like, how many parts is there to this thing, right? Delta Squad escapes without Mikumo. Machina is in critical condition, and Freya has a little frosted flake on the back of her hand.
Okay, this was really good. Like, oh my gosh, so much happened. But that's what I think was really good
Yeah.
about it, is it felt like that action rhythm that we had in prior episodes, like even felt pretty similar to like maybe even episode 13 in terms of action. And you had some parallel, like Freya launching out of the VF-31 to join the rest of Valkyrie. You know, maybe not in the same dramatic manner as 13, but she launched out of the plane. They joined together on the protoculture system, you know, and sing together. Machina literally taking a bullet for Freya. Like, that was just so good. And as Freya's like singing as she's developing the icy skin, like you can see how it physically affects her. And then Chuck writing out, there's so many things I love about this scene. And there's a lot going on. And it was a great way to balance out all of the talking that we had prior. So I really, really liked it so much. I wish I could talk about everything, but I'd probably go on for like at least an hour or so about everything that I liked. But yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, a lot of unexpected stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff that were kind of like predictable, but I just didn't expect a lot of it to end up that way. How about you, Chad?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in love with this whole sequence. It's just it's all really good. I mean the character work and everything, and also like one of the other things I have to say about how awesome this episode is the character animation is just gorgeous. There is so
Yeah.
much stuff going on here, and not necessarily like big stuff either. A lot of it is subtle as well. Like there's a lot of very tiny emotions playing on the faces of Freya, Mirage, and especially that one sequence just before Hayate, does his leap. There's just like he's looking at Mirage, and then he looks at Freya, and then he looks at him, like then it's just him on his own and stuff. And there's so many like little micro expressions that are going on in the face. I loved the animation for this whole sequence. It was just exceptional. And then of course everything else that comes with it. I mean, the Valkyrie girls singing without Mikumo was very inspiring because they're so into it, and they're just like, we can do it. We know Mikumo isn't here, but we can do it. And that was a cool thing to see again. Again, like that's sort of like was Kaname, kind of leading the way. It's nice again to see her take even more of an active role. This is like a far cry from the Kaname that we used to know, right, at the beginning of the series, who is just sort of on the sidelines and who used to be Valkyrie's like first sort of girl, and then just kind of faded once Mikumo came along to steal the spotlight. And it's just like as the series has gone on, there's been more and more focus on Kaname, and I really like that aspect of her because I think she's an interesting character for that sort of thing. And then the whole thing with Machina getting shot was just like, oh yeah, just oh my god. You sort of got to that, we got a little bit of a feeling that maybe something really bad could happen. I mean, this series could do it. You don't know for sure, but luckily she survived, and so did the duo. I also like how they used the drones, the multi-drones, to defeat the flying squirrels.
Yes,
which was,
that was so
great.
good.
I was like, "Go Kaname!" Yeah, it was awesome to see her like use those drones and just take them all out. It's like, yeah, you're messing with Valkyrie. You're gonna need a lot more firepower than that to get through. And then, of course,
Okay,
the
so-
last thing to absolutely gush about with this whole sequence is the VF-22. And I know it's, not your favorite character flying it there, Alex, but it was just a real pleasure to see the VF-22, animated in all its glory in like a modern anime. It was like, oh god, this was good. We didn't get much of it, but we got enough for it to be pretty damned glorious. And I was eating up every second of the VF-22 on screen. So I was very, very happy with all this. Looked good. Action sequence was awesome. Animation was really cool. So yeah,
So good.
not much critical to say about this sequence. It looked amazing.
No, I love the VF-22 sequence. Getting to see it fly. It's almost kind of like seeing Isamu in the Frontier movies.
Yeah,
So, but we get to see this one a lot
nice
longer.
little treat.
Yeah. And stupid Arid had to crash it. He couldn't let Jerwalk because there was no legs.
That's true.
I actually kind of liked the VF-22 had its crash landing, because then Arid had a nice little sequence where he gives like a fond farewell to it at the end as he's in his VF-31 pulling away. They say sort of like respect to Wright Immelman, as well as like, it's just sort of like you can feel it's kind of a nod to, the history and the legacy of the VF-22 itself. Just a nice little send-off for like one of Macross's best mechanical designs from the franchise, I think. And it's great to see it again in action for sure.
Yeah, the for VF and the YF-21 and the VF-22, they don't really get like a heroic. Well, they get a heroic end, but they're always kind of like the bad guys vehicle. Like Guld is somewhat of like the bad guy before they make up, and then this time it was the Valkyrie that dropped the bomb on Windermere. It's always kind of like a tainted hero.
Yeah, they definitely have that sort of mystique around the actual fighter plane itself. Yeah, it's kind of like sort of one of the darker, sort of mecha of the Macross universe. But it's also like an honored and well remembered one, right? It's like one of those pieces of mecha design that's like everybody has like a good memory of it. It's always one that's been well liked and loved, and it's just it's good. It was glorious to see it like this again. I loved every second of it.
Oh, so cool.
So yeah, Royd was just totally forcing Mikumo into singing that song, and just what was the point of that? To bring up that piece of the horticulture ruin.
Which piece? The piece that appeared on the Valens, or the piece that got stolen?
Yeah, the head piece.
I don't know what that's going to mean. They probably decided to add that piece because there's going to be a Sigurd Valens toy, and they're like, hey, let's make some accessories for this toy. I mean, it's inevitable, so might as well take it like it's supposed to be.
Could it be a weapon?
It could be. Like if it's supposed to be like a big laser gun. Go pew pew.
No, more like pew pew.
No, yeah, I don't know what that's for, but I think we'll find out later.
Yeah, so I really wasn't expecting Machina to get shot.
No, they targeted the girlfriend.
Yeah, that was really sad when Reina started singing. I was like, oh man,
God.
you could feel
And
that hurt.
Machina's like, the show's got to go on.
Yeah.
And she's singing with her dying breath. She's like losing blood and she can barely whisper, but she is singing. And Reina's like, I gotta sing with her. And that was just so wow.
That's
so
awesome.
inspiring.
I was like, keep pressure. Stop making the W. Keep pressure on the move.
That's what the magic sci-fi plastic wrap is for.
Yeah, I saw that, but then I saw afterward you see Reina like pushing down, so maybe it's just the instinct. But yeah, Freya getting the frosted flakes. I totally didn't see that coming.
Me neither.
The icy crusties.
Icy crusties. What's with you guys in cereal?
Well, this is the term that Celia came up with, so I'm following her lead.
I keep calling them icy crusties because I don't have a better name for it. There's no name for this disease or skin condition or anything that they've introduced.
The Windermerian skin conditioner, or I think it's actually more like there's more to it than that, because it comes with age, right? So it's also something that I think signifies that the Windermerians are prematurely aging because of this effect or something. So, which is terrifying, given their already very brief
I wonder if
lifespan.
it's an exertion thing, though. Because Freya's not that old. She just turned, 16 in the birthday episode?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, by Windermerian, that's middle-aged. But most of the Windermerians that we have seen so far who have it are older, except for Heinz. And Heinz has been exerting himself way too much in the series so far and pushing himself past his own limits of his strength and his physical well-being. So I wonder if that's part of what works in with the Icy Crusties. It's not just age, but what they're actually doing with their abilities and their powers.
Maybe. Yeah. There definitely seems to be a correlation for that for sure. So I think you're onto something there. Yeah.
The one thing that I noticed, and I'm not really sure if it has anything to do with it, but I thought it was too much of a coincidence, is that she gets it exactly where the sniper was pointing at on her hand. So I was like, huh,
That's true.
it's weird. Coincidence, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, but I double checked to see if that was the same hand, and it was her right hand that almost got shot, but then she developed Icy Crusties.
Oh man, it was sad when she developed it too. Like, did you hear her voice change? Like,
Yeah.
it actually sounded like it took her extra effort to sing. Sounded kind of like how I sing when I sing Macross Delta in the car.
I don't know. You have to record
Nope.
yourself so we could judge how close you are
Nope.
to Freya singing.
Take my word for it. That's how I sound when I'm singing Macross Delta songs.
As long as you don't get the Icy Crusties.
No Icy Crusties
Celia.
so far. Keep watching.
So that was the Eddie shot when she sees it and finds it on herself. After the ending song, we get a scene with Royd and Mikumo again, and he says, "May your voice resonate to the galaxy." And then he kneels. What's going on there?
He's an excited protoculture nerd.
He is.
Like, the Star Singer's real and right in front of him and completely malleable to him at this point. He says the magic words and she submits to him. She activates her powers and so far has not resisted it and finds it difficult to resist when he is saying Rudan Jal Rom Mayan. I mean, that'll probably change later. She'll probably develop strength to resist it and utilize her powers against him in a very cool and dramatic way. But right now, he has almost total control of Mikumo.
Has Royd gone from boy genius to completely insane?
Perhaps.
Because he's way creepy, man. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, it's just looking pretty grim. I think as well, like I'm agreeing with Cecilia as well. I think this is going to turn out to be a sequence where I think Royd only has power over Mikumo right now because this is something new that she's never experienced before, and she doesn't know how to get she's a bit overwhelmed, I think, by all this, but I'm pretty sure that she's going to be able to do her singing the way she always wants to do her singing. So I'm hopeful that that's how it will turn out, but it's still very, very creepy. We'll see what happens.
So Mikumo's going to get her groove back. Oh, I forgot about messages. There's a lot of Keith and Mikumo
Where is it coming
shippers.
from?
Marianne does that too. She's like, oh yeah, they can have such pretty babies.
Yeah, they can have pretty babies, but I'm curious where that's coming from. All right, I want to read you, Funkoons. You all realize the nefarious purpose Royd has for Mikumo, right? She was seated right next to all the glasses. He's going to make her wear every single pair, one after the other.
That's gonna take a while.
Actually, I've been seeing some comics pop up lately from Japanese Twitter users about like Mikumo and Royd wearing different glasses from his collection. They look really cool.
Okay, here's one from Bahoma 246. He says, it seems a little strange that the BF-22 wreckage was in need of repair to be put on display. We've seen Valkyrie crash all throughout the series, and they all remained intact. Example given, Qasim's SV-262. Also, every time there's been a crash, the pilot walked away with only a few scratches. Unless Wright was infected with the VAR, I'd say he was shot down. But who shot him down? Find out on the next episode of Law and Order. Dun dun.
It's true. We see variable fighters all throughout Macross just crash into the ground and at least their structure remains intact, but that doesn't mean that they don't sustain any damage. Like the first time we see something like that happen, obviously, is Hikaru's VF1D in the first few episodes of SDF Macross, and it's revealed that his Valkyrie did sustain damage, even though it was still capable of transforming and being operable. It had sustained damage that needed to be repaired by Roy when he arrived on the scene. So they're the VFs, their structures are very sturdy and they can stay basically intact, but that doesn't mean some of the other systems on board the craft can't be damaged by like being shaken up or just like jostled that severely, right? And pilots haven't necessarily survived either. Like we were told that the YF-19 went through many pilots in Macross Plus. right? We don't know if necessarily all of them survived, or even if they did, if they're, still, still able to, talk and, process information with their brains now, right? So they could be something more serious than that, right? So I think that's fine. I think when they were discussing the VF-22 and its crash and being, having to be repaired, it could have just easily been systems on board and other things that are a little bit more delicate, maybe the engines and whatnot, right? But the overall like superstructure of the craft is still intact. That's fine, and I think that's consistent with Macross lore so far. So I think we're good on that.
Also, we see that there's on these Valkyries in Delta, not sure about Frontier, they do have a remote control capability. So I'm thinking Messers, because his wasn't scratched at all, except for the hole in the windshield. Yeah, when they took it back, it didn't have any like visible dents. Cosm crashing, he definitely crashed. Kind of like slid, but it was enough to kill him.
And then that makes sense too, because like basically G forces are the most dangerous thing to the pilots. Even in the Macross universe, with the newest technology that they have, it's still deadly to them, given past a certain threshold, right?
Was there another crash? I can't think of another one. Because Hayate lost his in a fireball.
Yeah.
LC is shipping Mikumu and Keith.
That's an interesting one for sure.
I am genuinely curious where this is coming from, though. So, like, if Keith Mikumo shippers want to tell me what they like about the ship, like, I'll listen. Like, I would like to know, just because there isn't any material in the show or like in the simultaneously running manga series that I've seen so far that has them interact. Like, I figured that Royd Mikumo would pop up as soon as Royd had her tied up in his glasses chamber.
Well, maybe some of the people are seeing some personality similarities or something like that, or maybe some personality traits that could be complementary. Then when the two are put together, I'm not really sure. I really hope it's something a lot more than, he's hot, she's hot, so they should
That's
be.
it. That's it. That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
So
Prettiest people
yeah,
on the show.
might as well hit that, right?
Yeah. So Keith Mikumo shippers, leave your comments.
Yeah.
Why do you ship it?
Let us
We want to know.
Let us know, please. Okay, so I guess the one for me is HT Suncoast. He said, I saw somewhere a while ago that Rudanjal Ram Mayan is Windermerian in the name of the true king. Also, it seems like Mayan is derived from the protoculture language, since the island where the original protoculture ruins were discovered was Mayan Island. It might mean something like heir of the protoculture or king of the protoculture. But yeah, I think it's not a terrible idea. I don't know if there is supposed to be a direct connection between it, other than the fact that it both uses the word Mayan. Probably a connection. At least from a production side, because we know from subsequent Macross sequels that Shoji Kawamori really likes his hyperlinked, stories. He likes to get those connections in there overall. So, or if not connections, then at least references to older Macross series. So this could very well be a legitimate reference back to Macross Zero. So I don't think it's any coincidence for sure. Whether it actually is more than that, HT Suncoast posits the theory that it could be derived from the protoculture language itself, or that there's a direct connection between the protoculture on Windermere and the Mayan island in Macross Zero. Not sure if we'll get anything on that, but I think it's definitely a reference for sure.
I just realized, speaking of Zero, we have actual bird people. Our guys in wingsuits.
Yeah, I thought of that too when I saw them like flying around.
The bird human? We've got bird humans.
I do, yes. Yeah. It hasn't.
There's a shot too, like during kind of like the execution sequence of the episode. You kind of see like birds flying around on top, and I'm thinking like, are those birds or are those guys just flying around?
Just chilling in their wingsuits.
They're just like flying in circles. So I didn't notice it the first time, but when I was watching the subs, I noticed it again because I knew they were going to come up later.
It could very well be, right? I mean, they might have to be out there doing patrols. Right? Maybe that's why they show up. Maybe that's why they show up so fast when things start to go south, because they were up there patrolling and they just took a look down and saw that all this shit was going on downstairs. So they're like, well, better get down there, do something.
They didn't expect my boy Arid coming from the top.
Say what you want about Arid, that was pretty badass.
It was, yeah.
Hopefully, Ara doesn't get any more crap. But I gotta say, he was led up to that tower, given the keys. I think Belger even started the VF-22 for him.
Fired up the engines.
Actually, no, I
Yeah.
think it was Machina, wasn't it?
Oh,
Doesn't
that's
she have a
true.
line of dialogue where she says, "Yeah, I should be able to get this started," or something like that? Right?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true.
Or maybe she says, "I think we should be able to get this started," meaning her because she's the engineer.
Yeah, I didn't really of course I didn't. I didn't understand that it was already like, fueled and fully loaded with ordnance when they got there. Like Belger actually, I don't know, how did he know
And
to
even
do
that was
that?
kind of convenient, where he's all like, "Oh, by the way, we tuned it yesterday, and it's full of fuel. Oh, and the legs have been removed, so you guys can hide on the inside." And I'm like, "What?"
I got a kick out of that actually. Yeah, how the legs were removed. It was funny too because they actually showed the legs sitting next to the craft on the ground, beside it to the left of the display. It's like, oh, it's conveniently disposed of leg units just sitting there right next to the VF-22. That's not suspicious at all.
Cool. So, anything else?
No, other than everybody appearing naked briefly, which was lots of fun. No, nothing else.
Yeah. Can we talk? Can we
Oh my
talk
God.
about how like good Royd looked for once in this 24 episode show?
Oh, we certainly can. That's why I brought it up.
Like, okay, so he's looked like a total dweeb, and I don't know if it's the uniform with the glasses or what. He has not looked good in this series, and has not been marketed as a very attractive character either. That's been Keith's role as the pretty pilot, and then you've got the cute twin archetype, and then you've got both the hothead. But in the way that they drew him, and it was part of the really good like character animation. The way that they drew him,
Yeah.
he looked like a cool like bishonen. Like he looked attractive. And I'm like, what is going on? This is not the character you do this for. But it was part of actually just really good art in general. But yeah, he's hella toned. See the way he drew his body?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was starting to look good for the Star Singer, man.
Gosh, that
Yeah.
actually was like
I don't know what was going on there, but he was looking
Actually-
fine to me.
like so he looked really good, but he was naked and behind her, and I didn't know how I felt about that.
Oh, she has a lot
I'm
of
like,
hair. That
Yeah, strategically placed hair.
as
Yeah.
usual for Mikumo. But yeah, Royd was on par with Keith in terms of who's the most attractive character in this episode type of thing. And that was kind of strange, but also kind of cool.
Royd also managed to keep his glasses on while
Yes.
everybody else's
Naked.
clothes were gone. It's like, so the glasses is not affected. Everything else comes off except not the glasses.
I'm most comfortable in my own skin with my glasses.
I feel naked without my glasses.
What if these are like his special like nudist glasses?
Oh,
There you go.
perfect. That would be awesome. Yeah, if he had a if he had a pair of glasses just for the bathroom.
Like these are the glasses I wear when I'm naked.
Yes, these are my
Yeah.
glasses for the Windermerian water closet.
Water closet. Oh my god. That's brilliant.
On that note,
It's pretty awesome.
It's a great way to end. Talking about how hot
I
Royd
know.
looked in this episode.
Just had to point it out.
I know.
Everybody would think it.
Chad, where can we find you when you're not dreaming of hot Royd?
Oh, it's gonna be difficult.
You can't.
It's gonna be difficult. But you can visit the my website, of course, the Macross Mecha Manual. You can also send me an email at marchingcw@hotmail.com, and you of course can visit the official Facebook page for the Macross Mecha Manual, which is facebook.com/Macross Mecha Manual. And lastly, I'm available on various anime message boards such as ANN, Anime Nation, and of course the Macross World Forums.
And Celia Rose, where can we find you when you're not on the Macross Delta recap show?
You can find me on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Celia Rose Cosplay, and on my Twitter account at Planets Twinkle, where I've been talking about a lot of Macross cosplay projects that I really want to do right now. And I'm not sure how I'm going to get them done just yet. But yeah, you can catch me there.
This is EXO, and you can find me on the Macross World Facebook page or the Macross Delta Facebook page, or you can tweet at me at Macross tweet the official Macross World Twitter account. See you next week for episode 25. There's a name for that one
Yeah,
already, right?
the Hoshi no Utaite. It's the Star Singer.
The Star Singer. All right. We'll see you guys. 2 more episodes to go.